What's going on, guys? So my last devlog, I took my uncle's feedback and I made various improvements to the quest system, player movement, and UI. My uncle never really plays video games anymore, so it was interesting to see it from his perspective. It was exciting actually seeing someone other than myself play the game for the first time, not to mention the fact that the feedback I received was invaluable. I enjoyed this process so much I decided to try it again with more family members on Easter. This time I asked 3 of my cousins to try it out and give me their feedback on the game. I figured they'd give me a different perspective than my uncle too, as they play video games a lot more. In addition, they are younger than my uncle, but still have a decent age gap between them. So in this devlog, I'll be going over the improvements I've made over the past month based on the feedback I received from 3 of my cousins ages 23, 17, and 6. So I knew I was going to see my 23-year-old cousin on April 20th. So for the 2 weeks prior, I improved the game as much as I could based on my uncle's original feedback. I made sure that the WASD and click to move functionality both worked. In addition, I reworked the character creator to make it more organized and simplified. The goal was to limit the colors and blend shapes based on each category rather than showing everything at once. For example, if the player clicks skin, only the color slider should show, as there's no need for them to use any blend shapes. If the face button is pressed, there's no need to see the color slider. In addition to the movement and character creator, I learned how to create a PC build for the very first time. After troubleshooting a bunch of errors related to materials and resolving an issue with the save system, I got everything working by April 19th. It was the first time I actually had a Mac build and a PC build for the game. The next day I went to my cousin's house and had him test the PC build of the game. It started off well. He was able to start a new game, make a character, and get right into the game. The starting tutorial tips helped a lot, as I didn't need to explain the controls. However, some controls he kind of knew already, and he said he would prefer an option to click to speed up the tutorial text speed, or just make it like an instant text on click. And I definitely agreed with that. He completed a few quests on his own, but once he reached the cave, the screen became very dark. I must have my brightness up a lot on my Mac, which I used to develop the game, so I didn't realize how dark the cave would be on the PC and, different brightness setting. So I made a note to increase the cave light intensity as well as increase the light intensity during nightfall in the village. I sped up the time so he could play in the daylight, and he was able to get to and complete the starting farming quest. However, it wasn't completely clear where to go to clear weeds or plant seeds. There was also a bug where he was able to plant in Farmer Mike's area, which I didn't realize or expect. So based on the feedback, I learned that in addition to the dialogue, I really needed to add quest markers and a glowing circle to denote where the quest objective needs to be completed. It's important to know that some players may not want to read dialogue, but rather just complete quests and get the rewards. So in addition to a quest marker, my cousin also suggested having the camera pan to the location of the quest objective, very similar to how like Breath of the Wild does it during the dialogue, so you know where to go next. This works really well for those who just want to play the game without reading lines of text. And my sister played a little bit as well, and I could tell she wanted to skip the reading as she kept clicking and kind of just learn as she went. I also learned later that the system would also help younger gamers who may not be able to read but can play the game simply by association and intuition. My youngest cousin just turned 6, and although he couldn't read most of the dialogue, he did really well figuring the game out. I'll go over his feedback later on in this video. For now though, my older cousin got through the main tutorial quest and also had a bug in the watering plants quest. The problem was that it happened to rain on the second day with a randomized weather system, and it watered the plants for him, so he was unable to complete the objective until it stopped raining. So to fix this, I'm planning on disabling any weather until the first tutorial quests have been completed. And for just the testing, I sped up the time to the next day so we can complete the rest of the quest. When he finished playing, he suggested adding controller support. Originally, I had planned to create a demo just for Mac PC with the keyboard and mouse controls, but he made me realize the game would be a lot more fun with the controller settings. He got his Xbox, Switch, and PS5 controllers to show me which buttons should correspond to which actions in my game. For example, right and left bumpers or directional pads should navigate through the action bar, and usually left gamepad button to interact with items and NPCs, while the right trigger should be used to use items or tools. So I wrote down all this feedback and organized it the next day in my to-do list. I knew I'd be seeing my other 2 cousins on May 3rd, so I set the goal for myself to implement all this feedback in the following 2 weeks. The next day I started to learn how to add controller support. I thought I could use my wireless Xbox controller with Bluetooth, but I found out it was an older version, not compatible with PC or Mac, so I had to go to Walmart to buy a wireless controller. After watching tutorials of Unity's input system and reworking my player movement code, to allow for keyboard input and gamepad input. I was finally able to get my player running around. In addition, I was able to get the right stick to rotate just like in a real third-person RPG. I think the best part was casting my Mac to the TV and actually playing it as if it were a real console game. This gave me a ton of additional motivation to translate the other controls to work with the controllers as well. So for the next week, I went over all my existing code and UI to see what needed to be changed to work with both keyboard and mouse as well as with the controller. This included the main menu UI, character creator UI, and in addition to equipping tools, using tools, and interacting with items, objects, NPCs, and the rest of the game. So fast forward to May 3rd, and while I knew not everything was perfect, the main mechanics and UI were all controller support ready for testing. We had about 20 people over for Easter, so in addition to my 17-year-old cousin testing the game, others were able to watch it and make comments as well when I casted it on the TV. My cousin was able to start the game, make his character with the controller, and his feedback for the character creator was to use a right and left bumper to switch between the UI elements rather than using the joystick. He also suggested different buttons to be used for interacting, opening the inventory, and jumping. By this time, I had implemented a basic system to have the camera pan to the quest objective location with a green circle around the area. That with the quest objective text may actually now be sufficient enough without needing to always display the current objective on the right side of the screen. My cousin suggested a quest log to allow the players to choose which quests they want to be shown or tracked. Although I haven't implemented this yet, I agree, and it's a good system I'll need to add. This will work well with the mini-map and the quest markers too. So I took down all his feedback to ensure all is improved before the public demo. So finally, my youngest cousin came over later in the night, and he was playing Minecraft on his tablet. Although he only just turned 6, I asked him to try my game, even though I figured he wouldn't be able to read the dialogue or any of the tutorial tips. However, to my surprise, he went ahead and button mashed until he learned the controls using trial and error. He then went around picking up all the wood he could find and completed the quest to pick up one stick. And it's funny, most of my family enjoyed just picking up wood and not doing some of the other quests until later, so that was interesting too. And there's no sound effects either, and it was still enjoyable, so pretty cool. So once he got the hammer, he tried hitting my character, Farmer Mike, with it. And then he actually started fixing the fences after he realized it wasn't actually doing anything. I do want to add some kind of dialogue if the player or the NPCs are hit later on, but for now, nothing happens when you hit the NPCs. He completed the second quest and got a sickle, and I was amazed when he got the pickaxe as a reward from the cave quest and knew it was a pickaxe. I asked him how he knew that it was a pickaxe if he couldn't read, and he said, "I just know." He kept running around, pressing all the buttons he could, even chopping down a few trees at one point. Even though he didn't even have an axe, he was just using the pickaxe, even though it took a little bit longer. He learned he could use the pickaxe to destroy rocks, so he did that for a while too. And honestly, I think he played it more than anyone so far. So much so that my laptop battery died. I had to charge it, and he kept asking me throughout the night if my laptop would charge again so he could keep playing it. I love the fact that he enjoyed playing the game even without knowing what the dialogue said. There were even some buttons he pressed that opened the wrong menus, which is something I wrote down to fix too. He even made it clear to yell glitch whenever he walked through a wall or something was blocking his vision. He wanted to stay at night to keep playing, but his parents told him it was time to go home. So overall, the past month was really an amazing experience, and I took down a ton of feedback based on what my cousins said and what I noticed when I watched them play. In addition, the following day, I went to my friend's wedding, and a lot of my friends asked to test the game. So I'm doing my best to ensure all is in order before I have a testable version for the public. So now, my next goals are ensure that keyboard, mouse, and controller work properly with all the game mechanics and the UI that I have. Right now, they kind of work, but not to the quality level that I would want. Number 2 is going to reworking some of the quest rewards and the quest order slightly, to ensure the player is equipped with the proper items and knowledge before leaving the village. And that's going to be kind of the end of the demo. The player is going to be equipped with everything they need. And this includes having a home or a home base before leaving the village that they can come and bring items to, craft storage, and things like that. Anything that you have in a typical RPG house. And in addition, I need to ensure that the save and load system works and persists through scene changes, which is another rework that I did over the past month, making everything translate no matter what scene you're in. So you can actually go back to the main menu from the main scene as well. So that's another thing. Number 4 would be create sound effects and ensure music and sound are proper decibel levels and LUFS levels. So one of my uncles is in audio engineering, so he knows a lot about audio levels and things like that, which I really don't know anything about other than just make simple sound effects. So I got to make sure all that is balanced when I make my sound effects and make sure my music is brought down to the proper level. Number 5, once complete, I want to add at least a little bit of polish by adding grass and improving models and textures so the game actually looks halfway decent. Right now they're just kind of just blocked out for where everything's going to be, but nothing looks, too good, I would say. Even if it's a first demo, I want to have it the look, a little bit decent. And number 6, finally, I like to add some scene transitions, having a little bit of an intro trailer after the character is created, so they have an idea of what the game is about before they create it. Because I won't always be there for people who, especially in the public who don't know what the game's about. There should be some kind of introduction for it. So that's basically it for now. As always, thanks for watching and following this journey. I'm going to do as much as I can over the next month to complete all these goals that I've mentioned at the end of this video, and it was exciting to get some more feedback from the tester. So that's where I'm at now. Thanks for watching and following along.